Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to talk to you about homeschooling, but not as an entire topic. I am going to try to keep this video as concise as possible, but truth be told, I have a tendency to ramble sometimes, but this is actually a really broad topic. And today I wanted to actually talk to you guys about when homeschooling doesn't look the way you thought it would or you think it should, and how to approach that. This is actually something that I get asked fairly frequently. For those who are unaware, not only am I a homeschooling mom to our 7 children, we started this journey when our oldest was a little over halfway through her kindergarten year in a public school. There were a series of events that prompted us to remove her. We never intended to, and I say we, I never intended to homeschool long term. I honestly thought we were on the same page with public schooling. It's what you do. My husband was actually homeschooled the majority of his school life. So we never fully discussed it. He just went with what I said. But anyhow, things changed. So we pulled our oldest. I thought we would just homeschool her the rest of kindergarten and through first grade to get her to where she should be. And then we would open enroll to a different school come second grade. Well, then things were so amazing. We just kept going. I thought, well, I'll enroll her and the others come middle school. We'll do elementary. Middle school came and I was like, okay, high school. We'll enroll them for high school. High school came. Now, high school is the one we are even more open for anybody who's concerned. This is a family choice. Now, our children do not get final say, but if they have any questions, concerns, or thoughts, they bring them to us, and we do actually consider them. High school, we consider them even more. And so we have given our children the opportunity, if they want to attend public high school, to do so. So far, we have 3 high schoolers, and none of them have opted to. Our oldest did open enroll when we first moved back out here to a different school district. But here's the catch. In our state, as in many states, not all, so you have to know your state laws. So in the state of South Dakota, the public schools, it's up to each school what they want to accept and not. And very few schools in the state actually accept homeschool high school credits. So even though she was a sophomore, she was going to have to start back over as a freshman. She thought she was okay with that, and as it got closer to time and she actually learned more about the school itself as well, she decided she wasn't okay with that. So we do encourage them that if they're going to do it, they want to do it starting their freshman year, because you don't want to have to start over. They do also have the option to take classes, but I'm getting sidetracked. I'm rambling. Okay, so, like I said, our original view of homeschooling was very short term. And it kept expanding. So that right there was our first change in how we looked at homeschooling. Then came curriculum. And this is one of the biggest questions that I get. And now, see, I'm going to jump back and forth a couple times here. So where I was going with the fact that we've homeschooled for 13 years and where we're at with that, I also run a local mom support group once a month. That's for local homeschooling moms, where we just get together and we discuss things. One of the biggest topics there at our gatherings, as well as in local groups, is curriculum. Because when you're first starting out, there's so many options. I firmly believe that there are even more options now than when we started, because while the internet was most definitely a thing, there was not nearly as much available online, or just as well known as there is now. So when we started, I pieced everything together myself. It worked great, honestly. We did fine. We used a lot of workbooks that I got in various places. That worked great for several years. Fast forward a few, I believe our oldest was probably in 5th, maybe 6th grade. The workbooks we were using at that point in time decided to align with Common Core. I did not realize that at the time. Guys, I'm not for Common Core, so I'm just going to say that right now. My biggest problem, I thought, well, I'll teach math differently, because that's what you hear the most about it. But here was the other problem. In the reading assignments, so in the language arts portion, they were using historical stories to teach lessons. And I got to looking at these stories with my kids and realized they were fictional, but they were using bits and pieces, real people, real locations, touching on real events, but they were not the real history. And history is tough, I know, because it's in the past, and unless we've lived it, it can be difficult to figure out how to navigate that. Because in the end, it ends up becoming he said, she said. But I have a real problem with people trying to change history. And when I started questioning this and I got into some online forums, I was pretty much told, well, yeah, it's fictional. It's just English. You don't need to worry about whether or not it's the true story. But guys, you can't do that. You cannot introduce real people and then put in this side story. So then when I started pushing that, then I was told, well, you know, kids need to learn to think for themselves. They need to look at it and evaluate and be able to tell whether it's real or not. Well, not if you're presenting it like it is real and you're using bits and pieces. Anyhow, I digress. So needless to say, in one day's time, we folded up those workbooks and trashed them. I kept what we needed to show that we had done that work so far. And then I was like, okay, we're changing things up. And I really piecemealed things together. But I started to burn out hardcore, which is also a real thing. Some people do it sooner or later. I think it just depends on what all you're putting on yourself and the number of kids. Now, by this point, we had 4 kids that were school-aged. I was trying to do 4 different grade levels in every subject. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I didn't have time for anything else. For several years, I'd been introduced to this other curriculum that works with family cycles. And I finally found, for years I'd fought it though. I finally decided to take a look at it, and I fully looked at it and realized this was the answer to my prayers. This is what I'd been looking for. So we started using this curriculum, which I'll go ahead and tell you guys. We use My Father's World. Yes, it is a Christian curriculum. There are a lot of similar things though if you're looking for something secular. But what it does is it allows me to teach multiple grade levels at the exact same time. They're learning the same thing. And in the planner, it simply breaks it down for me and says, you know, if it's the youngest grades, have them do this instead. Or if it's older grades, have them do this also. And then the separate subjects like math, some of the English, the spelling, that kind of stuff gets done individually. And we use teaching textbooks for math, which was another huge thing. I was struggling to teach math. Not that I can't do it, but I was having a hard time teaching it in a way that made it understandable for all of my kids. Because our oldest, we actually questioned if she doesn't have dysgraphia. But at this point, she's learned to manage, and we haven't fully seen the benefit of paying to have an official diagnosis done. And it's not an easy thing to get done out here either. So we butted heads constantly. I found teaching textbooks. It walks her through the lessons and it grades for her and for all of them. And it was my saving grace. I realized math was actually something that was burning me out just as much as trying to piece everything together. Okay, so as you can see here, there have been many times up to that point so far where my view has changed during homeschooling. How it looks for us, how it looks overall. With each additional child we've added to the family, I've had to alter things. There are some people who are very, very strict. You know, we do this from this time to this time, and that is great for them. That's not how it looks for everybody, and it's never going to. Every family has to do what works for them. Now, there is a huge unschooling movement. Oops, sorry about that there. There is a huge unschooling movement. This in itself is very controversial. If you've read any of John Holt's books, it gives a lot of great information, but I think it also has to be used with a certain level of discernment. You have to, I mean, in all honesty, it's great to let your kids learn about what they're passionate about and what they're doing, but there are some basics that still need to be taught. Now, if you're finding a way to work that in and you're teaching them without any formal schoolwork, awesome. But there are some people who are just failing to teach any basic skills on the guise of letting them learn at their own pace. Okay, so I'm not going to criticize unschoolers or anybody who uses super planned curriculums or anything like that. That is not what I'm here to do. What I am trying to fully express is that, sorry, I got some guys over here doing some stuff. I was checking them out and seeing what they were doing. What I'm trying to really get across is that if you are homeschooling, if you are not sure about where things are at currently or where you're headed, just take it one day at a time. I mean, as I've already told you, we literally closed up one curriculum and trashed it halfway through a school year because I was not going to let my children's heads be filled with any more crud than they already had before I realized it. We have done some of the cheapest curriculum options. We have done some of the most expensive. It is whatever works for your family, and any of it legitimately can work. Now, again, keep your expectations open. Okay, I'm going to use a couple more examples right here just to show the flexibility as well as to kind of get that across that it's okay. So a great one is this last week, our niece and nephew came in from another state, and I had the pleasure of having them every day for the week while my brother worked remotely. Their mom had some other work and school stuff that she had to take care of, so they came with him and I got to spend the week with them. That was great. The problem was, for 5 weekdays, I wasn't able to get much work done with my 7-year-old. He's in first grade, and I don't know why my face is so itchy. We managed to get about 1.5 days worth of work done, but there were so many extra distractions. My 4-year-old knows how she's expected to behave while I'm doing work with the 7-year-old, and that I will do stuff with her as well, but she has to wait her turn. Well, my nephew, who is 3, didn't know that that's how it works. I mean, he's 3, and he saw us doing stuff, so he wanted to join in. Except when I would go ahead and give him stuff to do, he didn't want to do it. And it caused a lot of distractions, and the kids wanted to go play, and suddenly my 4-year-old forgot herself and was just all over everything, and then forget the 2-year-old too. And then my niece, who is 1, I mean, she's just everywhere. So I finally went, you know what? It's okay, because this is why we've had extra time into our year. We have these weeks. So he only did the 1.5 days worth. And then we will actually finish off what was supposed to be last week this week, and we'll get a jump start. And over the next couple weeks, we'll get caught back up, because I'll do like an extra day each week. Or honestly, I may end up just deciding to move last week to this week and just go forward as is. I can actually do it either way. The way this curriculum is set up, but even if I was piecing it together myself, I have that ability. So with that, now looking forward to our older kids. So let me tell you this really quick too. Of our 7 children, 5 of them are currently school aged. I'm going to start from the bottom going upward. We do have our 2-year-old. Obviously, he's very minimal. We have our 4-year-old who is doing some preschool work when she's in the mood for it. I don't force it. That is an age. It's okay. I'm sorry that you're hearing beeping there. The 7-year-old is in first grade, so he does have work he has to do every day, but you do not have to do 8 hours worth of work at that age. My rule of thumb since we started, when I found out how quickly the kids could do the work when they're working one-on-one with you, is roughly half an hour per grade level up until about the end of elementary school, and then it kind of levels out. And then it's just however long it takes them to complete the work. So for kindergarten, if you do half an hour's worth of work a day, you're probably getting it all done. Don't stress it thinking you have to do more. First grade, an hour. You can have it all done in an hour. Now, if your child is kind of lollygagging and taking their time, yeah, it's going to take longer. But, and going forward from there. So don't stress the time. If you really want to break it down, think about what the public school does. If that's what you want to compare yourself to, think of how much time is truly spent in instruction and work time versus playtime versus lunchtime versus recess versus standing in line. All of those things you don't have to take time for. So whether your school does half days, full days, it doesn't matter. That is where I really stopped and realized I can do it in half an hour, because in the end, that's probably all they're actually getting at school anyhow. So anyhow, after the 7-year-old, we have a 7th grader who is really working hard right now to wrap up her 7th grade year so that she can jump straight into 8th here in the next month or so. She's on track to do it. She's got a little bit more she's got to finish, and I think that's awesome. Our 14-year-old actually did the exact same thing over the summer. She has a funny birthday where she very easily could have been an 8th grader or a 9th grader this year, but we did not feel that at the start of what would have been her kindergarten year that she was really ready. So we waited a year. The law allows for it based on the age for compulsory attendance. And so she is technically registered as an 8th grader this year, but over the summer, she wrapped up everything I required her to move up to being a freshman this year. So she's right back to where she would have originally been. I still feel that we made the right choice originally, but now I have the ability to do that and allow her to work ahead. Those two that I just mentioned, the 7th grader and the 9th grader, those are my two that actually have a life plan already laid out. Both of them know exactly what they want to do when they're done with school, starting at different ages. The 12-year-old has, I love her. She has wanted to be a cashier her entire life. That is a goal of hers. And we've talked about that, and we've said, you know what, that's a great starting job, but let's think long term. For a long time, she thought that would be it, but now that she's getting older and understanding money more, she's realized that's not. So what she's doing is she has an absolute plan that by the time she turns 16, she's going to be working retail. She wants to be a cashier until she turns 18, when she's old enough to go get a job at a bank. She realized that the appeal to being a cashier was because she gets to handle money all day. She gets to handle even more money if she works at a bank. So when she's old enough, she plans to go to the bank and get a job there. Once she's working at the bank, she actually is going to work through all of the necessary classes and the testing to get her real estate license. She wants to have that by the time she's 20. And then from 20 to 23, I believe she said, she is going to be working for whatever largest real estate firm she can get into to build up a clientele and just a business, because by 23, she wants to be full-time real estate. And her goal is somewhere between 23 and 25 to be one of the biggest names in whatever area she's living in. She's 12. And I mean, she has it laid out year by year, and she's not wavering. The 14-year-old has actually now decided that she's thought for a little while now that she wants to be a flight attendant. It's still a goal. She's never flown before. So we do keep, reminding her that, you're going to have to keep your options a little open on this. But she just found out that when she turns 18, she can work out at the airport and get her foot in the door with one of the airlines. Start there with their benefits and everything else. And once she has those benefits, she can actually start taking some flights and figure out if she even likes it. Then when she's 21, she can actually start applying to become a flight attendant. And that is her ultimate goal. She's 14 right now, and she is so excited about this. So for both of them, throughout their high school career, we are going to gear their electives and any extra classes based on what the requirements will be for what they want to go into, what's going to benefit them the most. That's the beauty of homeschooling. Now going forward, though, with our oldest two, and this is why I went backwards, guys. And this is why homeschooling doesn't always look the way you think it's going to. And that is okay. And you know what? You guys can go ahead. You can be strict. You can do whatever you want to. But let me tell you, kids have a way of doing things their way anyhow. So our second oldest just turned 16 a few days ago. She is a really hesitant child. She has not started driving yet, but as soon as we pick up the driver's manual for her, Both her and the 14-year-old will be studying to get their permits. She, for years, I thought she was going to be a vet. I truly did. She has an absolute love for animals. She's also a baby whisperer. She's just a kind and gentle soul. What I never saw coming was her absolute love for art. There is nothing wrong with that. Now, yes, I have had it ingrained in me over the years that, well, that's great, but what do you want to do for a real career? I have to take a step back and look at and realize that there are so many careers where art can be your thing. You don't just have to be an artist. You can make so many things. You can do so many things. So now that I'm really understanding and accepting where she is at, she is a sophomore this year. So for the rest of this year and the next 2 years of high school, we will be working to figure out what exactly her career path is going to be, what it is she wants to do. I don't push them to do any one thing. This is all what they come up with on their own. She doesn't know yet what it is she wants to do. She doesn't know if she wants to go to college or not. That's going to depend on what career path she decides to take. If it's going to require a college degree, then I really hope she figures that out this year so that she can take advantage of the dual enrollment prices that the state offers for the next 2 school years, because that will basically get her associates out of the way, and then she can build from there based on whatever she wants. So, with that, I really thought with homeschooling we'd already be on that path. Somehow we are with the 2 behind her, but that's okay. She is getting it figured out, and she has the freedom and the ability to do that. She also has talked about some aspirations of actually going to Japan to work, possibly to teach English. Her choice for foreign language has been Japanese. For the longest time, too, I tried to force a foreign language. We do require our kids to learn one, but I tried to dictate what they had to learn based on what I thought would benefit them the most. They were struggling to learn it. So as soon as I took a step back and said, you know what? You pick. It's amazing how much they have thrived. So again, I didn't see it going that direction. I didn't have any idea that my second child would prefer to learn Japanese over Spanish or French or whatever. In fact, she told me it was the third child who told me the other night that she would love to learn French, but she cannot handle some of the pronunciation, and I'm going to have to sit down and work with her on that. I took several years of French, and I apparently have just never worked with them on it. So the second one is taking Japanese. We'll see where she goes with that. And then that brings us up to our oldest. She is 17. She is a senior this year. This is a year we have fought hard and long for. She has had a lot of struggles throughout her schooling career. She may or may not watch this, and if you do, hon, I love you. Do not think this is a criticism of you. This is me simply laying out your journey. So together we have struggled a lot on everything she has done. This is the one that I mentioned. We suspect some dysgraphia, and there's just some memory retention issues that she has struggled with. What I have come to realize too is, again, her preferred career path and what I was trying to force as far as education and curriculum didn't line up. She has some very specific goals herself that are not your standard every day. In fact, there's a very unfortunate stereotype that it shouldn't exist, but it does. Her ultimate goal would be to grow up, have a family, and be a mom. Outside of that, she has some very specific thoughts on missionary work. Even more specifically, in the twin orphanages of Madagascar. If you don't know anything about it, I actually suggest you do a YouTube search here. You could do Madagascar twins. I think would pull up the documentaries that have been done on it. I have a tendency to turn on a lot of documentaries from time to time, and this particular one really caught her attention, and she feels very called to be there and do something about it. And if she lives there for a certain length of time, I believe she would be eligible to adopt there, which is also one of her life goals. So me pushing higher level math or anything like that is not something that has worked very well, because it doesn't fit her life goals and it doesn't fit her skill set. And we have spent so much time butting heads over what needed to be done versus what not. She's in her senior year. Now, she could just be completing this year's curriculum, but she does. Now, see, I am fairly strict though too. There is some work from her junior year that did not get completed. And I am not going to issue any of my children a high school diploma if they don't complete the work. It's plain and simple. It's not me being mean or anything else, but if that's what they want from me, they have to work for it. I mean, that's what happens in every other school. So, and yes, I do have the legal ability to issue a high school diploma. That is something homeschooling gives us. As long as you comply with your state laws, you can legally issue one. But I'm not going to, because that does put my name on the line too if somebody were to come back and be like, did you really teach them this? So, and honestly too, there's a lot of places, including a lot of colleges, that accept that. So if you would like to have another conversation about that, let me know down in the comment section below. I can either do another video or just have a written conversation with you. But, so on that note, like I said, she didn't finish her junior year work, and I have all of her senior year work, but she decided not to do it. South Dakota does have a compulsory attendance age of 18, so she cannot just be done. But what she can do is get her GED. And well, from my perspective, it seems a little backwards, because she has to do a lot of studying and work to be ready to go do her GED. She would prefer to do that than to do her schoolwork with me. And you know what? I have to just take a step back and support her in it. It may not be my choice, but it is an option we gave her. It's the option she chose, and it's the option she is happy with. So no, I did not see that. That was never an expectation. We have slightly discouraged it even in the past. However, there are many family members. I'm not going to name anybody because it doesn't matter. But there are many people who have their GEDs, and there is nothing wrong with it. I don't know why it carries the stigma it does, other than I think it's seen as the dropout thing. Like, if you drop out, you go get your GED kind of thing. But if you can, trust me, the GED is not easy either. So if you complete it, you've done something. You obviously learned something. So, I don't know, guys. There it is. That is one way to consider changing expectations, and just being open to the flow of things as you homeschool your kids, and knowing that you can't force them to do absolutely everything. There are some kids who are very compliant, and there are some people who may be able to do that. But sometimes you got to work with your kids. You got to know each other's expectations and limitations, and you got to go with it. So, as much as I've rambled, it looks like I'm at about half an hour here. I'm sure I've missed something. So if you have any questions, leave it in the comment section down below. I will get to it, as long as it's not a nasty comment. In which case, we'll see how nasty it is. Either I'll reply to it or I'll delete it. Anyhow, yeah, do that. In the meantime, I hope that you guys do like this video. I hope that you're having a blessed day. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell, and that way you won't miss everything else coming up next. And I will see you in the next one.